to be sure that you can listen and hear to me. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think it's time to start. This is a small session anyway, 50 minutes, so we need to be on time. Welcome to this Coding for Efficient Network Communication research group, online this time. So the goal of this group is to foster research in network and application layer coding in order to improve network performance. So we are focusing on erasure coding and whatever revolves around this technology. This is an official IETF session, which means that the Notewell will apply. We are supposed to follow all those rules. Nothing should be, this should not be a surprise to you. This is the same, no change. If you contribute to this session, then you are supposed to follow the IETF processes and policies, which are exactly the same as the IETF one. So you are supposed to disclose whatever IPR you may be reasonably aware of. We are also supposed to behave in a reasonable and appropriate manner. So that's the goal of this slide. So this is not a development standards working group. We are a research group. The rules are a little bit different. Once again, if you are not familiar, then you are invited to have a look at those documents. And then here are some administrative aspects. The pointers remain more or less the same. I would just like to say something specific to these sessions. This is an online session, so the session is fully recorded, both for the audio and the video. There will be, of course, no blue sheet. The blue sheet will be automatically filled based on the Miteco and data tracker logs. So you are authenticated, so it's not a big deal to do that. And if you want to take part in the discussion, if you want to ask questions or do comments, so please raise your hand. So we'll see on the top left corner a few icons, and in particular this hand, which enables you to ask to be in the queue. So please do that. I will give the floor to you in the order of arrival. So this is the agenda for today's session. I will be very brief for this introduction. Then I will move to the hackathon feedback very briefly also. And then we'll continue with an update presentation from Nicolas Kuhn, an update of the coding and congestion control in transport. So update of this document. And then we'll devote the end of this session for the next steps. We have important questions to discuss, so I would like to share with you all of this. That's the situation for the work having been done recently. So for the first document, the network coding for satellite systems internet draft, we passed the ISG review, and we are now in ISG review. So we are pretty close to the end, and we are very happy of this. It should be the second IFC published from this research group. On progress, the coding and congestion control in transport document. I think the document is progressing well, so we'll have a presentation for this item. And then there are a few 4 or 5 documents that need to be, that are somewhat in standby mode, for which we need some action. So this is the case for the NC for CC and NDN requirements and changes document. In fact, we need to start research group last call in association with IC Energy. This is a bit different for the BACT coding scheme, which needs to be, we should ask research group adoption first. on this. I will come back on this at the end of this session. We have two documents for coding for Quick, and once again, this is something we'll discuss at the end of this session, and the same is true for Tetris protocol. So we are progressing well on some of those documents, and we have some actions to be done needed for the remaining ones. That's all. We are planning to hold a meeting in the next IETF, which will be perhaps online or physical, we'll see. So that's all for this first agenda bashing. Is there any comment, any is there any feedback from the room? No, it's okay. Okay, so let's continue with the next item, which is the feedback from hackathon. I will share. Oh, I need to. Oh, sorry, I need to practice a little bit. I first need to stop, then I will share something else.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Marie-José.
Yes. Yeah, so there was a problem. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm late. There was a problem with my registration. And by the way, gather.com with the secretariat, it works. They resolved my problem in 3 minutes. So this is the good thing.
Okay, thank you.
So now I'm here.
Yeah. There is some echo, so maybe you could solve it. Otherwise, just to let you know, I've been through the introduction chair slides, so I'm now going to talk about the hackathon feedback. Okay, here it is. So we held our hackathon last week during a full week. We were, sorry, yes. So the goal were the same. Just to remind you, the goal, this is meant to design a reference open source free codec. We are focusing on the simple ILC FEC scheme first as a first step. And of course, the final goal would be to facilitate FEC tests and adoption in IETF in general, for instance. We have a second goal, which is to challenge the generic API internet draft as well. Small teams this time, Cedric, myself, and Marie-José, all of us part-time. I apologize, but I had little time to devote, unfortunately. It's not that easy. That's personal feedback I would have. It's not so easy to work, to devote more time when you are online. It's not the same as being physically in the same room and working all together on the project. There are many distractions, and at the end, I had unfortunately a little time devoted to this hackathon, and for different reasons, Cedric also couldn't participate as he would have liked to, and Marie-Jo was also part-time. So we made progress, but little progress. So the source code now is here. Most of it is here. The C demo application is done, which doesn't mean it's working fine because we still have debugging to do in the core Swift codec, but at least the source code is here, and the Python wrapper for tests and demos has been done also. So I would say that we are more now focusing on debugging than anything else. So that's a good sign, at least, but there is still work to be done. So the next steps for us is to continue over this week, if possible. We'll have some time at the end of the week, hopefully, to devote on this, and then to have an additional hackathon next IETF. with the goal to clean up, to do more tests, and to improve documentation. Also, we have this internet draft that has expired now, but that could be revived very easily. So currently, the goal of this internet draft is to discuss and present the API, the common API only. But I would like to enlarge the goal with also some information on how to use it. That could be useful. Regardless of whether this internet draft is published as informational or not, that's a side question. But at least to have this documentation along with the Swift codec should be very useful. So that's the situation. I don't know if there is any comments, if anybody wants to say something. I see nobody in the queue. No? Okay, so let's continue with next item. So I will, Nicola, I will present the slides. You will tell me.
While we change, I suppose there's somebody taking minutes.
Good point. I forgot to ask.
Well, I've taken a few notes, but we have the recording, so we can always take notes from the recording. But it's one of these days, so my Jabber doesn't work, so I'm not seeing what's going on Jabber. But I guess that's fine.
Nicola?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. If you can speak a bit loudly.
Is it better? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I will try to speak louder.
Perfect.
So, hello everyone. This is a quick update on the draft on the interactions between coding and congestion control. Because of what happened in the recent few months, we couldn't have done as much progress as we had initially wanted to, but still we tried to make some updates on the documents based on the feedbacks we have received from the list. I think I've tried to put lots of text on the slides in case I have audio or connection issues. So I guess the discussion can start. I will just wrap up what we have in the document at the moment, and we have some open point for discussion at the end. So next slide, please. Basically, the current objective of the document is to discuss how fake coding and congestion control can coexist, and also basically we have seen too many research papers when people compared fake mechanism with others, and some consider congestion losses, some doesn't. So we were thinking that there may be a need for the research community to have always the congestion control considerations in mind when comparing fake coding solutions. So next slide, please. We have added what we have tried to make new in this version of the document is to always mention the client aspect and not only the server aspect. So I have here all the new figures. My point here is not to go through all the figures, but basically try to comment them. What we start the document with is to be clear that there are two different channels. We have the congestion control channel and the fake channel. Both of them are theoretically decorrelated, but they can use in different implementations the same signaling signals or they can at least interact between each other. So basically, congestion control channel is just we send source packets to a receiver, and we may have on the reverse pass some information signaling that helps us have information on the current state of the network. So we can have what packets have been received, what packets have been lost, some specific markings. And on the FEC channel, we can send repair packets, and also we can have information on what packets have been repaired, and so to adapt the FEC coding mechanism. So next slide, please. We have divided the document in different cases, whether FEC is above transport, FEC is within the transport, or below the transport. In cases where FEC is above the transport, um, what we mentioned in the draft is that there are many potential issues when we have a reliable transport, because the transport may detect losses where FEC actually recovered the problem. So in this case, we mentioned in the document that unreliable transport are more relevant. The good thing with this case is that when adding repaired packets does not contribute to adding congestion in the network. So that's good. But then the repaired packets are taken from what could have been taken to send actual data. So there can be an impact on the good put for large transfers. Next slide, please. When FEC is within the transport, the cool thing is that we can do lots of congestion optimization. Um, there is not as much gain as what basically FEC may not do much better than what classical retransmission mechanism can do, and there is an impact on the actual boundaries. So in this case, it's very important to carefully design the coding ratio. So some examples of what could be interesting in this case is to send repair packets when there's no more data to transmit, for example. So when the communication is over, we just send a bunch of repair packets, depending on what the congestion control allows. And also this let us do some um, smart scheduling, sending what may be needed to unlock the receive buffer at the other hand of the network when we have receive buffer sizes issues. Next slide, please. FEC can be also put it below the transport. So that is the case, for example, when you are doing tunnels mechanism. Um, so here that we can have lots of benefits when we have losses along the path. So we have presented previously in different IETF meetings that we can have more than 1% losses in SATCOM use cases, and this can impact a lot the actual data transfer and so the end user experience. There are cases where we have a mix of when we have transmission losses that can be actually recovered by FEC mechanism. The problem here is when we have congestion losses and we are repairing them and we are hiding a congestion through the transport. So that's why in this case it's the same that the one before. It's very designing the coding ratio is very important. So what we have proposed in the documents, some of the approach that could be done to design how to carefully design this coding ratio. It could be based on, for example, LED-BAT protocol, or basically this kind of protocol to automatically adapt the amount of coding or ratio that we repair packets that we send. Next slide, please. So we have tried to be more clear on the classification or on when, basically be clearer on how FEC and congestion control can interact depending on how they are positioned. And then the problem that we are facing at the moment in this document is that depending on the use case, depending on the protocol you are using, there are lots of things that could be relevant or not to be done. That being said, we have done some experiments, but I didn't have time to format the results. But basically, we have done some experiments with Tetris as a FEC scheme below transport with a cubic transport, and we expect to reproduce the results soon with a quick as a transport mechanism. And we have done lots of experiments on different satellite use cases, mobile systems, losses that we have when we have optical links, or congestion losses. So we expect to present some results. We are working on that because this kind of thing is important in our use cases, and discussion must take place to carefully design the coding ratio, not to shoot more data packets in congestion networks. But then I think we are now facing a problem on what if what we have in the document here useful. First, we are just discussing some things. Should we move towards more recommendation draft? Should we extend more from specific points? I think that to move forward on this document, we may need some feedbacks from the group on these aspects. So if you have any comments or recommendation, views, please let's share them with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicolas. Is there any question from the group? Otherwise, I have a question. In the conclusion, you say the draft is currently a discussion draft. If we stay with this goal to discuss the requirements, the problems, the potential families of solutions, without any going further as a recommendation draft, so being close to what we've done so far, how far would you say from a consolidated version, consolidated document? What's the remaining work? What amount of work remains to be done for this? If we remain with this optic, with this the fact that this remains a discussion draft, what will you say?
I think I'm afraid to open a Pandora box on all the potential solutions that could be envisioned. So I guess it depends on the time we could dedicate to it could be huge. And that's also my point. Basically, we could add more content, but is it? If the time, the amount of the things we could put in it depends directly on the time we would dedicate to it. So I think it's important for us to be sure that this is needed, or if the discussion is taken elsewhere.
Okay, so the idea is really to define the scope, what we want to have in this document or not, depending on what time left we have. That's the main priority. Okay, that's a good point. That needs to be that needs to be considered by the group, so that we have a realistic position on this document. Yes, I understand we could have something really large, discussing a lot of things. Yeah, which is not necessarily the goal. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. So please do contribute, do ask, do document, and how much you want to be in this document. This would be very useful. There is a comment in the chat from Dave. Maybe Dave, you would like to take the floor to discuss, to say that. No, otherwise, I will read the comment from Dave. One thing it might be good to cover is how to couple increasing transmission rate with increasing, decreasing coding rates. It might be interesting to use increasing code rates as a probe to more safely increase transmission rate. Has this been looked at? And Dave, Spencer is agreed. Oh, okay. I missed something. I did something wrong. I should have authorized. Oh.
There should be in the queue. There are people highlighted in yellow, and you can press the green tick box.
Yes. Yes, I was looking at the chat and okay, I overlooked the queue. Okay, yes. So sorry for that. Yeah. So please, Nwcrg, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thanks. So my question was across like it's a two-part question maybe. One is when we are saying it. Usually FEC in other systems is part of the physical layer, and it involves some kind of synchronization across the two ends because you're looking at latency per se when you do any kind of block or any kind of window-based mechanism. So is there any kind of synchronization mechanism being thought about either as part of the underlying transport or within the FEC signaling? And the second part is, again, on the same lines, usually the packet networks have an underlying differential delays, either based on their routes for the same channel or for the same session, or it could be also differential delays over time. Because of the changing congestion or other aspects of the network. So are these aspects being looked at as part of the FEC?
Thank you for the question. I think there's something that might be missing in the document is, for the moment, we present the two channels as being different for being the more generic as possible. We did not dive into the details on what happened if they are not actually separated channels, and how the signaling would be done, because I think it is depends a lot on the mechanisms that are actually used. But I think I think the point, and if we go further with this document, the synchronization and aspects must be pointed out as something that must be defined, or at least discussed. Thank you. I don't know if that answers the questions, but I think it was more a comment on how we consider the synchronization and the differential delays that could happen between different links. I think something that depends on the protocols that are used. So I can just take the point on that we may need to mention that in the document.
Okay, Spencer has a comment or question. Spencer, you have the floor. No. Okay, no.
This is Spencer, and I just wanted to thank you for doing this work. It is really important. For the question about the discussion draft and the recommendation draft, so my first question is: are you thinking the recommendation draft is for other people working in this research group, or people designing protocols in the IETF?
Thank you for the question. Well, I think that's something that we should, for the moment, we are making a general statement draft, and I'm not sure we have enough content to make actual recommendations for protocol designers. We can make some general comment on if you do FEC, please consider congestion control may use losses as a congestion signal. But I think that's something that is quite generic. I'm not really sure to what extent we can actually make useful recommendations. I think it depends on how deep we go into the details, depending on if we choose specific protocols, and then we may be able to do more recommendations, such as how you could use ECN signals or not, what do we recommend. But if you use ECN, it makes assumptions on the transport. So I think to go further with recommendations, we may need to go further into the protocol that would be used.
Sure. So thank you, and thank you for the answer. So what I was thinking was that you were talking about the discussion draft moving towards a recommendation draft at some point. My suggestion would be to do that as two different drafts, because I think the information that you're putting together in the discussion draft is important, and I think recommendation draft, the protocol designers should be really crisp and short. So like I say, this is really important because the people in the IETF have already raised the issue. What happens if you manage to disguise all the congestion signals by repairing all the losses? So I think you're doing the right thing. My suggestion is that when you get ready to do recommendations, that you do it as a separate draft. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comment or question to you? Anybody else? Okay, so in that case, I see. Okay, François Michel said something on the chat. I think we could try to recommend not to ignore the losses or recovered packets when using a loss-based congestion control when the path is not completely controlled. That is to say, we know that we are on a satellite link and that losses are not due to congestion. Yep. Do you want to comment, Nicolas? Or?
I agree.
I agree.
That's something we could do because it's linked. I think it's relevant.
Okay, if there is nothing else, I will move to the last item of the day. Thank you, Nicolas. Okay, so let me share.
Okay, so this is me, I guess.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so next slide.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I think this is a little bit of the review of what we were supposed to do, and I think we've done pretty well. There's stuff on the tunneling that we haven't done, but the NC and ICN we did. The congestion control, we've talked about it. The VR, we kind of abandoned it at one point because it was too much. We did a lot of work on the I wouldn't say the common API, but at least even the stuff that we did on the hackathon was related to that. The satellite we've done, and the network coding and quick. We're getting. We have two drafts there, and we're getting very close to something. This was delayed actually by the fact that Quick was also delayed, and we have a solution for that now, but we were a little bit waiting for them. And what we have also that is partly done is we wanted to have one draft for existing solutions. We still have the Tetris team that has promised to complete their draft. The network coding, the network coding from MIT, the random linear network coding, the drafts have been mostly abandoned. I do not have any status on any of that, but we have at least one, and obviously we have Vincent's Swift code, which is already adopted as a FEC frame RFC. So I think in terms of milestones, we're doing pretty well. We've done, I think, we've had pretty successful meetings with the group. There was at one point a thought of linking what we do with what they want to do in loops, which is a buff forming. There's going to be a buff forming meeting on Friday. However, in the meantime, they've decided to look only at congestion related losses and not losses related to non-congestion, but it's still something that they could do in their hop by hop, in a way, view of the world. But yeah, we've been doing pretty well in terms of milestones. Next slide. So that's actually the summary again of what I just said. So we have the RFC that's published. We have BATS. Oh, I forgot BATS. BATS is active, and there's actually a lot of work on that. RLC has been published, like I said. Tetris is active. We have 2 active Quick. We have the almost done for the satellite. We have the common coding Swift. And I think what's missing, maybe you have it on the next slide, but what's missing here is there's this newcomer thing. It's not a draft, but it's actually stuff that we have there. Like I said, we decided to let it go of the draft. We have the congestion control that is very much what's presented today and is being in progress, and we want to make progress on it. And the draft NC and ICN is really active, and we expect the last call very soon. We decided to go away from the tunneling because it was not really related to us, but it could have been done in loops, and maybe it will end up being done in loops. But so, like I said, we're pretty much we're doing a good job, I think, in terms of the milestones. Next slide. So, but in spite of everything I said, so let's now be realistic. Where's the network coding research going? Essentially, right now, what we see is that coding is just a subset of what is being done for efficient communication, what is being done for efficient storage, in order to, and caching also and everything. There's a lot of potential research and congestion control, although from what I see in terms of real implementation of network coding and systems, a lot of time, again, they're done over tunneling, and then, you resolve the issues of congestion another way. But that actually is still an open topic. But as you can see, there's a lot of, from the draft, actually, there's a lot of requirements, there's a lot of recognition of the interaction between coding and congestion control. But, right now, it's good examples, but there's not really solutions. I think what we think is happening is that the field is getting pretty mature. This has been going on for quite a while now. And obviously, when it started, there was still this question that if there was a role for network coding, there was a lot of research, a lot of it driven by the MIT group, on essentially applying network coding to a huge subset or even a superset of network applications and services. And there was the work, obviously the important work done in both INRIA and Toulouse. And so it was a very active role, active field. We've seen it a little bit going down. I think another thing that we've been burdened at this group since the beginning of the group has been the huge IPR environment that has been a problem because there's a lot of patents in this field. There's actually a growing number of patents. And obviously, this is a huge impediment for people to go beyond the research. Obviously, when you just do research, it costs nothing. But when you start wanting to do technology transfer, and there's a huge patent environment, everybody is a little bit careful. So that has also been an issue. So with that, what we, Vincent and I, we've talked a lot about this. There's been other issues in, again, IPR disclosure around the work that we're doing that we're late and a little bit hard to take. So what we suggest is to adopt the remaining IDs that are mature, and I think all of our IDs right now are very mature, so adopt them as RG item, publish them as what they should be, which is informational RFC. And what I wanted to say there about Quick is, you know, if we have an informational RFC on coding for Quick, we would hope that the Quick group would use that as a basis for a solution that could be part of Quick, and it has always been part of the roadmap for Quick, so that if we have this RF informational, it could be a basis for either another draft in Quick, or at least to influence the solution. And we would close the group in about a year from now, so, you know, for having done the job we were supposed to do. So this is a suggestion. This is not obviously this final decision. Again, we have these particular. I spoke a lot about the FEC for Quick, so we can't really wait for Quick, you know, for IDs. So what I think I can put my author hat here is that I think we will focus on the major aspects that we don't expect to change in Quick. And then publish this ID as, again, like I said, as is. Here, Quick guys, it's here. It's a framework for your solution, and of course, us authors are ready to participate in making this happen in Quick. The FEC at Loops, I spoke to Karsten a lot about it. Like I said, at first they were very open and putting some coding inside Loops. For the moment, they put it a little bit on the side. I have the impression that I know why, but I will not put words in people's mouth. But it's on the side for now. Maybe it will come back. But in any case, they would have, if they ever decide to bring it back, they would have the whole raft of RFCs that we would have on the requirements for the congestion, for example, this interaction that they will have to deal with between congestion and non-congestion losses. They would have the solution for Tetris. They already have, obviously, the FEC frame solution. So I think that would actually be a good way to start with Loops. So I don't think that would be problematic. Again, this is a suggestion. This is not. Is there another slide, Vincent?
Oh, this is the
okay. So again, this is a suggestion. We've discussed this with some people before throwing this. We didn't want to be, but I think again that we've done a lot of what we wanted to do. I think for people who've participated in this since the beginning, I think we've had we have now a much better understanding of what network coding can do in a network. What are the potential solutions? What are the potential tripping wires? And yeah, I think it's time to decide that maybe we want to move to something else. And we welcome comments. Obviously, we're going to put that on the list eventually, so that everybody can chime in. The authors of current drafts, suppose there's a few on. I've seen a few on the list on the Meet Echo. Be prepared to work on your drafts to make them ready to transition to informational RFCs. And I was pleased to see that Nicolas said he had a little bit of time. We've already again contacted the Tetris team, so they're aware. I know the BATS team are very eager of moving forward, and I think the two others are also very much ahead into approval. So I think we're great there. And yeah, is there any comments? Is there any yes, no, whatever, people? Okay, Spencer.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can actually speak the loop people sharing that. What I've been talking to the proponents like in the last 48 hours and trying to make sure that they were really consistent on their position on where FEC was in their proposal. So take a look at their slides that were just uploaded last night, I guess, and see what you think. But I hope that there is some discussion around that about FEC with loops at the BOF on Friday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I intend to participate in the loops meeting on Friday, and I may raise the question again with them. Colin, you were on the line.
Yeah, hi. So I think both the loops and the quick documents are pretty close to IETF work. So I think we should have a conversation about whether that they get published as informational things here or just moved into the IETF and pushed into the relevant working groups there. The rest of the work, if yourselves as the chairs and the authors are happy to finish the work up and believe that the group has then achieved its goals, then that seems like a very reasonable approach, and I would support the plan.
Yeah, as far as the congestion control, I think is not strictly for loops. So I think I also spoke to Yana, by the way, to push it into the congestion control. I think that could be a standalone. The quick, I agree, is closer to an IETF document, and we could. But I've been very careful. I've talked to Lars about it, and I've been very careful of not to overwhelm them with yet another document. So I think our idea was that to use it as an informational on an approach for quick. And then see how it works from there. But we have time to discuss.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time to figure that out before we get there.
I see there's messages.
Officially, we have 1 minute left. So.
Okay. Yeah, I saw there was no.
Exactly at the cutoff time.
Okay. Well, I think then we're fine. I like short and sweet. Again, I'm sorry to have been late. I guess it's the problem of being remote. I have a few days to resolve my Jabber problems. Thank you, everyone. I guess we will. I don't know if we're going to have an interim before now in November. We'll see how the documents evolve, maybe to make sure that they evolve, we could have a very short interim sometimes. If not, we're going to obviously meet in November so that we can have all these documents being, advancing to where we would like them to be. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Nicolas, for the presentation. Thank you for the people who asked questions, and thank you for all the participants. And hopefully everybody is safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.